and said we're good.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee for the town of Westville to order. First of all, I just want to express regrets from normal chair Robert Parkinson, who's I think attending his granddaughter's graduation today or tonight, so he's unable to be here. Our other citizen appointee, Nevin McKinnon, has also sent his regrets. He's not able to be here. Just so you know, the composition of the Planning Advisory Committee is full council who are currently present. Councillor Dunn, Councillor McGregor, Deputy Mayor McKinnon, and Councillor Fraser seated here, as well as CAO Weirs. Planning Director Sean Day down at the end, who you're going to hear from mostly tonight. And over here separately is our recording secretary, Christian Reed. So with that, and I'm Lenny White, by the way, your mayor. Normally, Robert Parkinson is the chair, and I just wanted to emphasize that we do have two citizen appointees on the Planning Advisory Committee. It's just ironic that neither one of them were able to be here this evening. Generally, the Planning Advisory Committee is the first line of communication and discussion with regard to any matters related to development in town, zoning, bylaws of that nature, development agreements, and all those things. It comes to Planning Advisory first, and then Planning Advisory recommends to council the direction that Planning Advisory feels should be taken. And then it's up to the council. Town council makes the ultimate decisions with regard to any of those matters. We're directed by and controlled by the Municipal Governments Act, which stipulates how things go as far as some of these matters that come before Planning Advisory and the town council with regard to development matters. So, and I wanted to say before we started that tonight is an exceptional sort of situation because this is not a mandated meeting. This is not something that is required for us to follow under the Municipal Governments Act. This is something we, as a council, decided that we wanted to do, and that is to have a public engagement session, hence why you're all here, I'm thinking. And it's just to have that extra step of getting your input on the proposed matter that we're going to be dealing with here this evening. There will be no decisions made this evening. Planning Advisory will not be making any decisions with regard to recommendations to council. That will come at if this proceeds, that will come at a later date. And there are provisions, as I just mentioned, in the act that indicate that spell out for us the order in which things are done. It will come to Planning Advisory first. There will be a public, there will be a first reading if we get to that to deal with the matter, and then the second time there'll be a public hearing, and then it'll go to council for second reading if that gets to that point. That's how all the matters that we deal with in the town regarding planning and development are handled and prescribed to us. So that's a preamble. We'll add more as we go. Sorry, go ahead. Oh God, sorry. And I just said all that without my mic on. I apologize. I apologize to the people that are on YouTube. Hopefully you could hear it from one of the other mics. I speak fairly loudly most of the time, so hopefully one of the other mics picked it up. And it's kind of ironic as well because I'm always saying to members of council and committees, make sure your mic is on and you speak directly into the mic. So bad on me. Before we do begin further, I just wanted to acknowledge that we are meeting in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And we are all treaty people, and we're flying proudly the Mi'kmaq flag this month to recognize Indigenous History Month here in our province. And we all are all working continually towards reconciliation and truth and understanding. I also want to acknowledge and pay tribute to the legacies and histories and contributions of the African Nova Scotia people who have been here in our province for over 400 years. With that, folks, any additions or deletions prior to the approval of the agenda? Then I accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. Any member having a conflict of interest to declare? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes of the May 21st, 2025 meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the 2025 May 21st minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Question's called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. So that brings us to the meat of the matter that most are here for, I think, and that is the consultation, community consultation with regarding a rezoning application on Barker Lane. And at this point, I am simply going to turn it over to Planning Development Director Sean Day for comments with regard to this. Sean, plug yourself in and you'll be away.
Turn your mic on.
Get it up here.
So I guess we're going to have a, yeah, it's going to be up on the screen here. We think we're going to make it happen for the YouTube people as well.
Can't see it?
Can we turn that a little bit?
Can we turn it a
Probably,
bit?
Yeah, and then they can see?
I want to.
Right. Absolutely. Can you see, Danielle?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
She can bring it up on YouTube.
Yeah. I can see that anyway. Can you? I just need $2,000 to help it up.
Thank God we weren't on camera, right?
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
it's on.
Right?
Yeah, we are.
Oops.
Same spot as we were there.
Clean up in aisle 3. No, it's all right. It's fine. I'm just trying to be environmentally conscious and take the tap water rather than going to get a bottle of water, right?
Paid the price.
I guess that was
Try it again.
I have tap water as well. I'm going to try not to spill it on my
By
laptop.
the way, just for
I support local, though.
When I was in Sean's office earlier today, I did somewhat the same thing. Unfortunately, luckily, I only had that much water left in my container at that time. Don't worry about it.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay? Hopefully I've got this close enough. So Mayor White's already given a bit of an introduction into what we'll be doing this evening. And again, the important matter to be considering is that this is just an information meeting. This isn't about decision making. No decisions have been made. No reports have been released. Nothing like that at this point. So we're here tonight to discuss a rezoning application concerning a property that falls at the end of Barker Lane. It essentially terminates in a wall of woods right now, but there's quite a large parcel in there. In fact, there's a 17.5 acre parcel in there, which you'll see in a moment. So currently, that large portion of land is zoned R1, and the proposal is to move it to Commercial Highway C3, which is consistent with other lands around Barker Lane. And the purpose of this is to allow the use of the site for bulk storage of road construction materials, equipment, and also to have an office and a workshop. Just running quickly through the planning process. We've had an application submission along with a general site drawing and some notes about how the site would be used. This is what we're doing right now, having a public discussion about the proposal. From this would come a staff report, and possibly based upon comments this evening, there may be some proposed revisions to the application. This would then go to PAC, and at the Planning Advisory Committee, if they felt that the application warranted it, they would move to go to first reading, or recommend to council rather to move to go to first reading. And essentially what that means is that council is agreeing to go to a public hearing. Again, no decisions are made apart from the fact that PAC feels that it merits further consideration. First reading happens, an ad gets posted, and a public hearing occurs. And a lot of the information that would be presented by me at the public hearing would be very similar to what is going to be brought forward tonight, except there would also be a staff report. If council felt, based upon the staff report and the results of the public hearing, that this should move forward, the rezoning, they could give second reading at that point. It would then be advertised. There would be a 14-day appeal period. And that appeal would go to what used to be called the Utility and Review Board. I believe it has a new name now.
Yes, the Nova Scotia Regulatory Appeal Board.
Okay, so that's kind of an overview of how applications for rezonings run through the process. Mayor White mentioned the Municipal Government Act. It's a big, thick document that regulates everything generally that municipalities do, whether it's working in changes in planning and adapting to change in planning, or if it's writing different kinds of bylaws. It has financial aspects, the whole gamut. We also, within the Municipal Government Act and associated with it, we have statements of provincial interest, which I'll run through briefly later on. And we have the intermunicipal planning strategy, which several towns are bowing out of, and Westville will be bowing out of to adopt its own in the coming months, hopefully, perhaps within the year. And each town has a secondary planning strategy. So again, these are written underneath the framework established in the Municipal Government Act, and it prescribes exactly what you can and cannot do within your municipal planning strategy. This is an overview document principally. It's setting your objectives, your policies, and then that then goes to the nuts and bolts document, which is the land use bylaw. And that's very much a kind of a more black and white regulatory sort of document. There's a few other planning tools that we use. Within the LUB, a lot of things happen as of right. So someone comes in and wants to put a deck on their house or build a home or a small apartment or something like that. They often wouldn't have to go through any planning procedures like this one, consulting at the PAC, public hearings and that sort of thing, because you don't want to slow all of these simple things down through this process, which can be fairly long. But for more complicated things, there's a few other tools we use. One is called site plan approval, and the other one's called development agreement. Some of you may be aware that we went through a development agreement process recently for the conversion of the consolidated school on South Main, turning that into somewhere in the region, hopefully of 60 to 70 residential units. We're not talking about that process tonight. We will be discussing the site plan approval process, which is a step down in terms of the nature of the process that happens, but there is still a consultation to the public with that one as well. This is the site. I think there's a way for me to. It's supposed to turn a color, but it's not right now. Oh well. So that's the 17-acre site. If you can see my cursor circling around. And here's Fraser Drive and Angel. Baker Lane is along here, coming in from the exit.
Turn off some lights.
Yeah, might help.
I'm sure there was a way to make that go up. So on the site, I've already mentioned the size. It's accessed off Barker Lane. It has excellent highway access. It does not pass through residential neighborhoods. This is a satellite view of the site. And that again gives a sense of the area that's entailed, and it gives some scale by using the aerial photography. So in the planning strategy, there's a document called the Generalized Future Land Use Map, and that map lays out large areas that are where, through public consultation several years ago now, it was decided that certain kinds of uses would go. So large parts of the community are designated as for residential development. Others are designated for, in this instance, highway commercial development. And so you can see the colors here. That blue is over a residential designation on the site. I should have made that transparent. My apologies. So it is currently in the residential designation, but it's adjoining the commercial highway designation with what's called a flexible demising line. And it's hard to see here, but there's a little sawtooth line running along here. And there are very few of these in town, but this is one of the flexible lines. What that means is that the property, which is in the residential designation, but immediately abutting the commercial designation, can be rezoned to the commercial designation. So here's the zoning. You can see the lot again. This time I remembered to make it semi-transparent. And it's surrounded by a combination of single unit residential and commercial highway. This is the site proposal. What is proposed is that there would be material storage on the site. I wish I could get this red thing to work.
Can I do that? Can I be Vanna?
Vanna? I was
Sure.
gonna say Vanna.
Yeah, please.
So material storage,
Right. And then you can see down to the bottom right, those are excavators. Oh, those ones are dozers, I think, and those ones are excavators, just to give a sense of scale. Then there's some trucks above that, Mr. Weirs. Yep, slide it up. Those are semi-sized trucks. Off to the side, I honestly can't recall what those are. There are some types of heavy equipment, and then there's up a little higher. Those, nope, to the right, that's it. Those are units which lay down the asphalt. Above that is the larger building. That would be the warehouse and maintenance building, and then an office structure just to the left of that.
shop, and office.
Right. Now, I don't know that these are nailed down in terms of their location. I believe that these are placeholders for how things can be laid out on the site. More importantly, on the site, you'll see that there is what's proposed as a tree buffer ringing the site on the sides which currently are not commercial highway. And the idea there is that there would be a berm with trees planted on the berm.
A bird.
There would be a berm, an earthen berm, and trees planted on the earthen berm. So, we're gonna, can you guys hang on to their questions? Right now, we don't have a measurement on the berm. That's something that would be determined if we get down the road that far as part of the site plan approval process. And the nature of what gets planted on the berm and how big it is and when that happens also would be part of that site plan approval process. What's not proposed is, and this was raised by someone who was concerned about it, any kind of asphalt plant or aggregate crushing. So those kinds of processing operations are not proposed. We have some notes, and the only way I can see to convey this to you is just to read them quickly. So in terms of connectivity, it was proposed that access to the site will be via Barker. Can someone correct me? It says Barker everywhere, but it seems wrong to call it Barker Lane as opposed to Barker's Lane.
Barker
Just
Lane,
Barker Lane, all right.
no S.
No S, okay. Access to the site will be via Barker Lane, as shown in the attached drawings. Although little local traffic is expected, a turning area will be provided at the end. The driveway will be paved within 3 years of operation. Site facilities will join into the town's water and sewer systems. In terms of site development, industrial properties providing opportunities for collaboration with nearby businesses such as Air Liquids, Nova Trucking Centers, and A.W. Leal. Regular use of their services is anticipated, and there is potential for these businesses to utilize our services in the future. Buffers will be constructed along the perimeter of the property to minimize potential nuisances such as noise and dust. This ensures minimal impact on nearby residential and undeveloped areas. These buffers will be replanted with vegetation to maintain visual compatibility with the surrounding environment. The industrial location aligns well with the proposed site use, with effective buffers ensuring separation from residential areas. Under stormwater management, which is with increasingly intense storm events is becoming more and more of a concern, the proponent notes the site's perimeter will include a drainage ditch along the buffer zone connecting to the existing ditch located behind the air liquid property, as detailed in the attached drawings. The property will be landscaped to direct stormwater runoff toward the front of the property, where it will flow into the existing drainage system. To prevent sediment buildup and control water flow, measures such as check dams and hydroseeding will be implemented. No environmental constraints or steep slopes are anticipated to cause any issues. Lastly, under community, the development of this site will offer benefits to the town and community. It will generate commercial tax revenue and new local job opportunities, benefiting the local economy. The increased revenue will aid in funding local infrastructure and community improvements. Now, I thought it was important that everyone understands what the intent of the C3 zone is. And this is what I found drafted in the documents that we have. So our policies are intended to encourage business and commercial development to service the towns, visitors, and surrounding areas. Ensure the design of commercial development minimizes negative impact on adjacent residential neighborhoods. And recognize the prominence of highway and business park commercial areas at town entrances by encouraging aesthetically pleasing developments. These are big picture ideas. They may be less than perfectly implemented in policy, and these are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at as we move forward with revisions to policy in the coming period. Planning considerations, when there's a lot of details that you get into when you're looking at something like this. There's an implementation evaluation criteria, and it talks about things like review of planning policies and regulations, servicing, fire and road safety, compatibility with surrounding uses, and proximity to town amenities. Environmental constraints, trees and buffering. We also have another implementation one, rezoning implications, that looks at other potential uses of the site. And this is a really important one, which I'm going to be going into more detail in a moment on. And whether they are as of use rights or in terms of those other planning tools I mentioned earlier, whether they could be uses that could happen through a development agreement or site plan approval. And again, in both of those cases, there is an opportunity for public input, whereas in the case of as of right uses, if they meet the requirements of the land use bylaw, they get to do the use. They will get a permit. So, the list is really long. I didn't put all the uses, but I thought it important to give you a sense of the kinds of uses that are permitted in the C3 commercial highway zone. So I just made a quick list. All-age teen clubs, auto body shops, service stations, boarding houses, commercial schools, commercial uses utilizing heavy equipment, funeral parlors, licensed liquor establishments, small engine and repair centers, private clubs, commercial recreation uses, rental shops, theaters, wholesale uses, recycling uses, warehousing or storage. It's a really broad set of applicable uses right now. The statements of a provincial interest that I mentioned before, which are something we have to give consideration to when we're looking at an amendment such as this. Drinking water, I don't believe that there would be any implications for that. Flood risk, yes, in the sense that anyone who's downstream from a property that goes from all woods to all hard surface could see increased levels of water moving through our drainage system and potentially backing up in certain areas should there be impediments to flow. So we will, in all cases now, be looking carefully at stormwater management. Nothing to do with agricultural land. In this instance, nothing to do with infrastructure, and nothing to do with respect to the provision of more housing, apart from the fact that it would no longer be useful as a place for single family or low density housing. There are actually provisions for multi-unit housing within the C3 zone, so you could potentially see higher residential uses on the property. So in an odd sort of twist, it could actually be beneficial for the provision of needed housing. When you're doing a site plan approval, there are only a few things you actually can look at, and these are laid out in the Municipal Government Act. This is straight from that document. So here are the things we can look at. The location of structures on the lot, where they're going to put the big building that they maintain equipment in, for instance. The location of off-street loading and parking facilities, not so much of a concern here. The location, number, and width of driveway accesses to streets, it's pretty much a given how that's going to happen. The type, location, height of walls, fences, hedges, trees, shrubs, ground cover, or other landscaped elements necessary to protect and minimize the land use impact on adjoining lands. So that one would obviously be an important one with respect to the surrounding neighborhood if this goes forward. The retention of existing vegetation. The location of walkways, including the type of surfaces, material, and other means of pedestrian access, not a consideration in this instance. The type and location of outdoor lighting. The location of facilities for the storage of solid waste. That's not one of the uses that's proposed for the site. The lighting is an important one, though, as you may imagine. If there are large lights protecting heavy equipment from theft or vandalism, we want to make sure those large lights wouldn't be shining in adjoining neighborhoods. The location of easements, should there be any. The grading or alteration and elevation or contour of land and provision for the management of storm and surface water. Type, location, number, and size of signs or sign structures, security or performance bonding to make sure that the things that are supposed to get done actually get done. The municipality will often reserve an amount of money equal to the estimated cost of doing that work. And lastly, provision for the maintenance of any of the items referred to in this section. So those are the sorts of things that get written into a site plan approval process. And that's what I felt it was important for you guys to understand, at least at a basic level, before we get into the conversation that we're about to have. And I'll turn it back over to Mayor White at this point.
We have the lights up. There, okay, so that's the information that we have at hand currently. So this is your opportunity. I know notices were sent out so that you're aware of this meeting. And what we're going to do is, what I ask of you, I guess, is the best way to put it, is certainly want to hear your comments or your questions. We'll try to answer what we can through Sean. But what I ask you to do is to come forward to the mic, state your name and your address, and if you can limit your time to, we'll try to make it fair so that everyone can be heard if they wish to speak. So I'm going to say, 5 minutes for your question and answer. If we can hold it to that, that would be appreciated. But we definitely want to hear from you. That's why we sent out the notices. That's why we're having the public engagement session ahead of anything, as I said in the beginning, that's mandated under the Act that we have to do. So I'll open it up now to those things, and just jump up, come up to the mic, state who you are, state your address, and make your comment or ask your question. And we want your comments, we want your input. That's why we are doing this.
Hi, folks. Mike Mumberket, 2105 Angel Street. Just a few questions, I guess. You did answer, I guess, one with the berm. What are the proposed hours of operation of the commercial development?
So I did ask the proponent about that, and thank you. There wasn't a hard answer to that. It was as needed, because there will be times when they'd have to mobilize, in early morning or anytime a highway emergency of some sort required their equipment. So I don't have a firm answer on that.
Okay. Are there plans in place for industrial acoustic barriers along the perimeter of Fraser Drive in addition to the berms? Berms aren't going to deaden noise, really.
Not currently.
Okay. According to the noise bylaws of Westville, noise level are not to exceed 75 decibels between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. or 65 decibels between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Will these noise levels be, with the commercial development, be monitored, and will those bylaws be enforced?
Mr. Weirs.
Will they be monitored? They'll be monitored by you largely.
Mm-hmm.
So, we don't have whatever they're called, sonometers.
Mhm.
That isn't something that the town currently owns. If we have complaints, then we will start a monitoring process. But it would, like in all municipalities, it's complaint driven. Right?
Okay.
So we're complaint driven. If you've got a complaint, then what we'll do is we'll investigate, to the best of our ability, determine what the facts are on the basis of whatever the complaint is, and then act if it's required.
Appreciate that. And I'd just like to note that each day such violation continues shall be deemed as a fresh offense.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yep. Okay, just want to make sure. What's the approximate increased property tax benefit from this rezoning? The property is currently assessed at $8,900, representing about $190 in annual revenue. Will this be similar in value to the property on 35 Belotus, which is about $2.4 million, or are we looking at something like where Leal's is around $900,000?
Yeah, so at this point, I don't think we're able to tell you because we have no idea what is actually going on there in terms of the size of the building. So if it's a very large building, then it draws a much higher assessment. So until we've seen the specific details of the building, we're not able to get to that answer.
Okay.
If I could just add to that, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Weirs, that there would be no tax revenues from storage materials, there'd be no tax revenues from machinery and that sort of thing.
But the property itself.
The property itself and structures on the property.
Okay. Just a ballpark estimate based on that 17, I apologize for taking this time. 17 acres, it looks like about the same size, about 39 residential properties. The average value of property on Fraser Drive currently is $359,000. So it would be about $14 million and about $300,000 in annual property taxes at the 2.13% rate. Do we anticipate we would collect $300,000 or more in property taxes?
At this point, we have no idea. The other reality is, there's no guarantee that there's a developer around the corner going to put in 39 units tomorrow.
No
right?
guarantee, but you can see Fraser Drive is quickly growing. This commercial development will probably have a negative effect on Fraser Drive and to some extent Angel Street, making it less appealing neighborhood to existing residents and potential new ones. This is bound to reduce property values and in turn tax revenues. Has the potential loss of revenue in residential taxes in the area been weighed in comparison to the potential gain of the commercial property?
No, because we don't have, we don't understand what's being proposed yet. right?
Okay.
So until we know that number, we can't
Yeah.
make a decision. Right?
I have two more things. I promise I'll be done.
You're doing great.
Has
Yeah,
this,
yeah, you're doing awesome.
so has this property been studied for any other commercial uses? For example, mixed retail, restaurants, etc.?
Not by the town.
Okay. Last question for me. So you've invited the public to come here today with their questions, comments, and concerns. The residents of Fraser Drive and Angel Street will clearly be affected by this development. What is the actual demonstrable benefit to these residents will receive in exchange for a diminished quality of life? Please do not use broad strokes. It's for the betterment of the town, etc. What are the actual tangible benefits to these people here?
I think
It's an unanswerable question.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an important part of the overall consideration and decision made by council. No question about it. It's a very valid point, in my opinion.
Okay, 'cause
It's a very valid point.
I honestly, to these residents, I don't see a benefit. I only see a reduced quality of life. Anyway, thanks for your time.
Sorry, could I
Thank you
ask
very much.
quickly? Am I
Go
allowed?
ahead.
Oh, yes,
Sure.
ma'am.
What is the reduced quality of life that you're expecting if this went ahead?
Clearly noise.
Okay. Yeah, please.
It's Stu's backyard.
So I want to know what they're expecting.
Stu Marchand, 1034 Fraser Drive, right in my backyard. I work for a reputable transportation company. I'm the truck fleet manager for two companies, Connors Transfer and Shoreland Transport. I deal in shops every day. I know what air brakes entail. I know what heavy equipment entails. I know the sounds that are going to come out of that job, and I know the decibel levels because I do have a decibel reader, which will be located,
Good.
Guess I know who's on call.
which will be relocated
We'll
in my
get good
garage.
readings if it were to happen then.
There's so many factors that you guys, I know you don't have a lot of answers right now. Clearly you didn't for Mike. I seen a crusher there. Was there a crusher on site?
I was told that there was not going to be crushing. There may be one there, but it wouldn't
So-
be on the site operating.
So except no aggregate crushing proposed.
Trees right now. It's not the same problem.
I think that would be written into the site plan approval.
They'd have to get approval.
And moving the product with this heavy machinery will be creating air quality concerns. What kind of product are they moving? Wind picking it up, blowing it over our way to where our kids are out playing in the backyard of an asphalt company now. Lots of things to be considered. What is the, minimum distance between a building and a residential zone?
May I ask you a question? In your experience, given what you do, what do you feel would be an appropriate separation distance?
An appropriate what?
Separation distance.
Well, we have an office across the yard, which is about from here to the end of the rink, away from my shop. And I have folks in the shop calling me all the time, asking if I can put the bay doors down because it's too loud for them when they're on conference calls. It's quite a distance.
Just to confirm, what kind of activity would be happening in the shop?
That's just
that would-
doing brake jobs, everyday random maintenance.
Okay.
Air tools.
So do we have an answer on how big the buffer should be, or what's the normal?
I can measure that on mapping and
Yeah. No, I
kind of
just wondered
suggest
if
that
we
that
have
may,
one.
the noise may convey across that.
So I guess that's it for me. I mean, we're all fairly upset by this news. I hear we're losing a playground and gaining an asphalt plant. That's,
I don't think there's an asphalt plant involved.
not guaranteed or pretty sure. Or once their foot is in the door, what will happen?
If it's an as of right in that zoning. It's not, I don't believe, is it?
So this would go through site plan approval.
Site plan approval, yeah. So in the site plan approval, basically, if it got to that point, the town can spell out in great detail the conditions for the approval and what the proponent has to do. I mean, we've done that in many instances since I've been here, and it's something that's very important to do. So it's not like a blanket sort of check. If you get the approval for that zoning, or you get the approval to do the development that you want to do, it may not necessarily exactly meet what you were thinking of doing in the end, because, as I said, we can put in that agreement or that approval very specific things. There was questions about the berm and size of it and the trees and all that. I mean, to the degree of the height, the size of that berm, the type of tree, the size of the tree, all those things. That's just one example. But, just, not that I'm saying that that's going to be give everyone the assurance that they're looking for, but it's something to think about down the road. And we're not close to even getting to that point yet. We really aren't. That's the thing that I would emphasize again. We called this meeting to get just exactly what we're getting so far from two speakers, but we have not moved the process through the steps that are required for us to do yet. Right?
All right, thank you for your time.
My name's Catherine McNeil. I live on 2125 Angel Street. I'm hearing impaired, so I would ask that each of you stay closer to your mic, keep your face towards your mic. I can't make out what you're saying. Okay. It seems to me that you may have chosen to listen to the commercial people that want easy access to the highway. My question is there no other place that you could put this development far away from us, the residents? We see no benefit for us. We see dust. We see pollution. Even though I'm deaf, I will hear those noises. You're putting the major investment in our life, you are making less of it. We will all suffer, I believe, if you say yes to this development so close to us as residents. Yeah. I think it will be a shame. It will be a shame on you as a choice to do that to us who have lived here and chosen to live here for many years. We want to stay in Westville. We don't want to have to move somewhere else because of pollution.
So, I'll speak very loudly, Kathy. The first point I want to make is that the town does not own that property. It's owned privately. And so the person that owns that property privately is undertaking to sell it to this proponent that proposes to do what they're talking about doing. It's not our idea. It's not the town's idea to do this development or this type of activity there. So just think about that for a minute. It's privately owned. The person that owns it has a right to sell it to whom they ever want to sell it to, that they want to sell it to. They've chosen to work an agreement with this person who is proposing to do this type of activity on the property that they own. So it's not something that the town initiated proactively, went looking for, tried to get them to come here to do this particular development proposal. It was not our doing. Pardon?
Who gets the vote to change?
We can certainly stop it. Yes, we can definitely stop it. That's why we're asking for your input, by the way.
If we tell you to stop it, will you listen to us?
We are definitely listening to you. That's why we wanted you to come out tonight.
I'm going to tell you we don't want it. So I mean, does that end the conversation?
Not totally. We want.
So you guys have to vote.
We have to vote on it
You
at
guys
some
vote.
at some point.
So we have no say.
Yeah, but that's why we're having the public engagement.
But at the end of the day, our say doesn't. It just means something to you. But at the end of the day, you guys decide a yes or a no.
Well, I guess in fairness to the resident though, like we are duly elected council from you, the residents.
Yeah.
But we are handcuffed for now.
For now.
Fine. That's fine. I understand that. But we're handcuffed by this process, as the mayor has outlined, that once a proponent makes an application to rezone a property, we're compelled to go through this process. And if we choose to just close the book on it, they appeal to the review board, and
Yep.
it gets sent back, and we're compelled to go through the process. So we're here because we need to be here, not that we're agreeing with the proponent. And as Mayor White has said, this has not been an openly solicited thing by the town, that we chose that this is what we wanted to happen here. It's as was alluded to, this is a private endeavor. It's privately owned property that is looking to be sold to a proponent that has an idea with what they want to do. They've now made application to us as the town to start the process. And we actually went the one step further tonight to have this particular meeting that we've never had before for anything that I've been on council for the last 5 years, to allow for this to happen. I just hope folks don't realize, like, this isn't an us versus you folks kind of endeavor here. This is actually, we need to hear these comments. I'm not sure if you noticed, the planner, Sean, over there typing feverishly, but he's capturing all of this stuff. So I just really hope
Yeah.
the residents don't see this as an us versus you kind of endeavor. We are just compelled to go through the process and give the due process that the proponent is afforded under the Municipal Government Act to come to us, to have their pitch, and to have it go through the formalized process as well. We're just compelled to do it. It's just the law.
Just
Doesn't mean-
if, and,
doesn't
and
mean it's a done deal.
so just to continue on what Councillor McGregor is saying, were we to, on the basis of you being here tonight, say to the proponent, "Nah, can't do that," he would have every right to go back to the government of Nova Scotia and say, they aren't letting the planning process play out. And government, make the town stop and let me make my case again. So by having you here tonight, what we're hoping to do is understand what you're feeling, but there will be, as Mr. Day was showing you earlier, multiple times when we are going to call you back to this very room to say, okay, we're at step 2 now of the process. Do you like it any better today? Then step 3 and step 4. And so there is a whole process that we will be going through. No decision is being made today. This is really about trying to understand what your questions are, provide the answers that we have, and in those situations where we don't have answers, go back to the proponent and say, gee, how wide were you thinking of making your berm? How high were you thinking of making your berm? Were you going to use an asphalt plant here? So that's why we're interested in hearing what your concerns and questions are, so that we can go back to the proponent and pose those on your behalf and make sure that the answers to those things come out in the next steps of the process. I hope that's helpful. This, as Councillor McGregor was saying, this isn't something that is been decided by the town. We don't really have a position one way or the other. We like development because every dollar of commercial revenue means a dollar of residential revenue or taxes that we don't have to collect from you. So commercial, and the commercial tax rate is about double what your residential tax rate is. So every $1 million of buildings every $1 million building we put up in Westville is a really good thing from a tax perspective, right? Sometimes those sorts of developments have negative consequences, and what we're looking for is trying to understand what you're worried about so that we can go back to the proponent and get clarity on what your questions are.
So to answer your question that you asked, yes, we are listening. Yes, it will be an important part of our decision process, what we hear from the residents in your area. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Matt Sangster, 1052 Fraser Drive. Right on that back side there, so it's my backyard too.
Yeah.
So my biggest concern is what everyone else is saying, the air quality, the noise quality. We all moved into that subdivision. No one's going to be a great neighborhood to raise kids. It just, it wasn't, at the end of the 17 years I've been there, 18 years, it wasn't a pleasant stay because of our treatment on our street, between the plowing, the paving, the gravel, the ditches, we've been neglected over the last 17 years. And when Lenny came to see me last year, it was going to be another 3 years before our roads even looked at. And now you guys are playing a lot more around the community. I see everything's happening, but we're still left, in the dust. And pretty soon we're going to be more dust. The company that is moving into there, where are they located now?
New Glasgow.
Whereabouts?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think they have the company is here. I don't think they have their
Equipment.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a road down by the Ford dealerships and all that. Stu and I drove up it. It's ugly. It's disturbing. Do you want people driving into your town and seeing that? Like, it looks like a landfill of equipment rotting.
I don't think it's visible from anywhere, right? Like, it's not directly visible from Fraser lane.
No, but when you come off the highway, what
But
do you,
it
what do you
won't
see? You
because
see
it's at the
liquid
back.
air,
It's
cranes,
behind, yeah,
then you
it's behind all
see,
those, right? So
you're gonna see all that open area is gonna be open, right?
well, I think there's a buffer around it.
So you're not gonna be able to see the whole thing from any part of the road?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Currently, the plan didn't show a buffer along the back of the commercial highway, but that's not to say that one couldn't be installed there.
Okay, and it's gonna increase truck trafficking. Our roads in around that intersection are constantly potholes. Up by the, you know, where the four-way stop is there, should be almost lights now because it's so busy.
Yeah, that area is not town property. That's actually owned by the provincial government. So
Okay.
it's a highway that we don't control.
Okay. So we have to monitor that to let you guys know that the town, or someone needs to constantly fill it or fix it? Like, who do we notify?
Yeah, it's the.
'Cause it
the
stays there
Department
for
of Public
weeks.
Works, the
Okay.
Nova Scotia Department of
All
Public
right.
Works.
My last thing is just that, you know, it's discouraging. It's, you know, you're gonna get people that might wanna sell if you guys agree to this. I just hope you guys have our backs and fight tooth and nail not to go with this proposal. I mean, let them go to all the steps they have to take. Let them do what they have to do to fight whoever they have to fight, but just have our backs. You know?
Yeah, and we are, as Councilor McGregor said, and Scott alluded to as well, we are mandated to go through, allow them to go through the process, and we can't just turn it down and say, no, you can't do that.
But you can encourage other development to go there, right? Can you guys research what other development you guys could propose to put there?
Not really, because it's not our property. We've
No,
done that.
with the owner though, have you
Yeah, with the owner.
contacted them and offered them
We-
some kind of
We can encourage
agreement?
the person that owns it to seek other purchasers, perhaps, but we can't dictate it.
Okay,
We can't make it happen. Now,
Okay.
we've done that with other areas of town where we do own the properties, yes. And we're seeing some positive results for it. But, if we owned it,
I'd just rather hear kids screaming back there instead of trucks. I mean, we can hear the Irving trucks, we hear liquid air when they release, whatever gas that, we hear everything.
right.
And, I mean, the drive-in theater, we can even hear this, on a clear night, we can hear that in our backwoods,
Show, yeah.
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
We
no.
want to keep it, somewhat down in the
Right.
evenings and,
Right.
so, that's it for me.
Thank you, Matt. I beg your pardon? It's another good point.
There we go.
That's a C3 zone as well, though.
Jason Wagner, 2499 Old Truro Road, also known as the daycare across from the drive-in. I'm here because my wife had graduation for the little ones tonight.
Right.
I don't so much have questions, just a couple things I wanted to bring up to make you aware. The daycare itself has 65 different families that attend the daycare, including infant room. If they're not having nap time or eating, they're outside. They spend very little time inside. It's always outside. Sometimes it's cold, but they're still outside. The biggest concern for the daycare, obviously, is air quality and pollution and the noise. To be honest with you, I was caught off guard. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to bring up is the fact that just keep in mind that there are 65 different families there, which is a lot of kids, and the pollution in that. And the one thing I wanted to bring up, because I don't understand the whole process, but you guys talk about a burn and all this stuff, which is all fine and dandy, but if they're planting little trees this big, it's going to be a long time before those trees are full grown and actually make an actual effect of anything. So, anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so there's another thing that, I think we're all aware that where the daycare exists, but, perhaps in considering it and so on, you don't necessarily put that into the equation. So that's the value of having your input. That's being noted as well. So it's another reason.
And to that point, that's sometimes where the C3, the highway commercial, the mixed bag of as of right permitted usages. When you look at the laundry list of things, in what planet, would somebody say it's okay to have you know, a bulk storage facility, which is an as-of-right permitted usage, right beside a daycare. But the C3 zoning, for example, does allow that to happen as of right, just because the way that the zoning is set up in our strategy. Not saying that it's appropriate, just saying that that's another example of a consideration that needs to be made as to what other usage of C3s exist out there that might not present as one would think is a C3, and that, and a daycare in this instance is C3 right now. So I don't, yeah. Anyway, I just say we
Yeah.
gotta be careful sometimes when we look at them, because it's not the same. It's not apples to apples all the time.
Hi, folks. Andrew Francis, 2115 Angel. Just curious about the process in terms of the back and forth with the proponent and them addressing all of the concerns that get brought up. Is there any, like, just so I think we all understand, the final decision for a rezone rests with council and a vote? Is that
Yes.
accurate? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay, so in the end, it doesn't matter if they say, we're gonna give every person $10,000 on the street.
Right.
It does not matter, you can make that decision. Okay, is there any version of it where the province can compel a municipality to rezone, even against a vote from the council?
Perhaps in the case that Mr. Weirs referred to, that, you know, we just dismissed out of hand.
Fair enough, but
and
like
said
if you
to
go
a-
through due process,
Right.
you cannot be overruled by any other legislation.
There is an appeal process. There is an appeal
So
process.
they can go through an appeal process,
Yes.
and regardless of the council's decision,
Right.
the province can then
Could be overruled.
mandate that?
Yeah.
We are like municipalities.
Yeah.
And I always say, you know, the act is like a paternalistic act.
Yeah.
It treats
Yeah.
us like children. You know, here's what you can do.
Yeah.
It's more what you can't do than what you can do, in fact.
So I get, like, from our position, like, the advocacy piece, like, can happen here, but then I would assume, like, well, Tim Houston's office is somewhere close, I think.
Right down the hall.
So I guess from our side of things, we need to be clear on what actually happens through the process, so we don't get blindsided by, oh, that we got overruled, and it's, sorry, guys, you're dealing with it anyway. So I just want to be clear on what our process.
So the proponent could appeal if the decision has to go in their favor,
Yeah.
and residents could appeal as well.
Okay.
It's
Can you
equal.
appeal?
Appeal,
That's a
appeal.
serious question.
Can I, yeah.
Through the
Okay.
appeals court, it is.
Yeah, and like, but like, I certainly understand everyone's position here, like, this is due process. I think it's just really important for us to know where the decision-making power lies and where,
Right.
you know, again, we're all here because we care.
Right.
But we all know that governments don't always talk with one another and can respond to varied interests. So I think it's really important that we are clear on
Very true.
what could happen.
Exactly.
Also, I don't think it should go there. In case
Right.
you're registering
No.
votes,
I think we've got
strongly
that.
recommend don't do it.
I think we have that on record, Andrew.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
And by the way, while you're there,
Yeah.
thank you for your suggestions about traffic calming.
Yeah, I'm getting some heat from everywhere else.
I just wanted to acknowledge that Andrew was the one that suggested initially about the traffic calming idea. Sorry for calling you out perhaps on that, Andrew, but I had to do it. Sorry.
Just on Andrew's question, in my experience at least, it would be rare, if council had been seen to be doing something unreasonable, the province may step in, but if council can be seen to have made a reasonable decision, it would be very unlikely that the province would step in and overturn that decision.
So it's very important to have our facts and have all this information.
I think if, as Mitchell has said, I think this could end up at the appeals court if it went through the UARB and then there was an appeal to the UARB.
No, I'm saying if you approve it, can a judge stop it?
Can a judge stop it? So
like
it would
you-
go to the UARB. That's where it would go. It doesn't go to a civil court. So I'm not sure who the judge is in this case. The UARB. But that wouldn't be the process.
It goes to the Nova Scotia Regulatory Appeals Board. So that's there is no, it's not a civil, it's not like a civil matter or whatever. So there.
Could it be a civil matter, though, at some point in time, like everyone here feels the same way, at some point in time, if this did get approved, could us as a group on that street in that area, take it to do a civil suit against the commercial
No.
people?
Well, I think you'd have to seek legal counsel on that. I mean, that's not something the town can give you advice on. I think it would be strange, but it's
Yeah, they can
possible, I
appeal.
suppose.
Yes, yes.
You'd have to exhaust all your appeal processes at the UARB, otherwise it would, yeah, they would turn you back to the process for.
There is a process, that's part of the process. That's on the act.
That's good. How long does this process take? Like over years, 2 years, 3 years?
No. Sean?
Oh, UARB can take quite a long time. It
Just
depends
our
on the
process,
caseload.
though.
Our process.
I think you're asking about our process.
Your process, say your process to. where
Approve
the
or-
property
So
developer-
it'll likely be several, 2 to 3 months?
That's all?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One would think.
So, and the other point I was going to make is that, you know, and I know that some questions were asked about specifics about what the proponent is proposing to do, and as Sean has said, we don't know that yet. But we'll have to know that before we can make a firm decision. That information, it will have to come from the proponent, very specific as to what their plans are, before we will ever be able to consider it. We can't consider it until we know all the facts. Right? And I was going to, the other thing I was going to say quickly is, because there's questions about, you know, making that decision, council making that decision, and if the decision is to approve it, you know, the appeal process or whatever, it's very important, or if we deny it, by the way, that it's important to have, it's almost like a court case in some degree. I see it that way, that you want to make sure that it's not appealable, that it can't be overturned in appeal. So that's one of the reasons that we want to have your input, so we can document it and we can use it if we need to for a rationale for the decisions that we arrive at. Now, having said all that, a council such as ours can hear nothing but negative comment or opposition to a matter and still has the constitutional right, if I can put it that way, to say yes to the request. And in doing that, what council has to consider is what's in the best interest of the town. What is in the long-term best interest of the town? To go to a point that's been raised a couple times already. So it's a very important thing. And I'm speaking now personally, by the way. I'm not speaking on behalf of council. They all have a voice. They can say what they wish. And I'm not speaking as your mayor. I'm speaking as myself. That, to me, is the determining factor of how I decide my vote on these matters. Is it in the best interest of the town as a whole, and will it be beneficial on a long-term basis? If it doesn't meet that test in my mind, anything that comes before us, then I'm not going to be in favor of it. Okay, so just so you know, and I'm sure that's sort of the way we all think up here.
Like, honestly, do you guys feel like you don't want it, or do you guys feel like we probably need it?
I can't make a comment until we have a staff report,
Right.
unfortunately. It's just-
Yeah, I haven't seen enough information.
At first, what is, like, honest, we have all gut feelings right now. Everyone has gut feelings.
Gut.
What is your honest, truly gut feelings?
It would be unfair for us to comment on that, unfortunately, Matt. No, seriously.
So I don't, we are also, just like you, like we're residents of Westville, right? And we've all had, you know, I don't know if you were all okay or agreeable to the new, the high school. That's right in my backyard. So we all have these decisions to make, and we have to look at the big picture. I don't, yeah, it is an improvement. I'm just saying, I don't have enough information. I would hate to say
just
yes
like
or
that.
no.
So as difficult as it is, if you don't mind, when you have a question or comment, if you could come up, because we need it.
Just wanted one answer of your gut
Yeah.
feelings, that's all.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't,
Sorry, Danielle. Go
no,
ahead.
I don't want it to make it look like we're not, you know, engaging, but we don't have enough information to say yes or no. I understand your point. I really do.
I'm just asking for just your quick gut feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Not that, like,
I mentioned about having, you know, the facts and building a case for or against, and I think that would jeopardize, that would be prejudicial, perhaps, that would be prejudicial. If we were to say right now, Matt, unfortunately, you know, what we personally think, it would be prejudicial to the process. And I don't want to go there. I don't want that to be a fact that comes up at some point down the road to be a successful appeal if it's needed. That's all I can say. Does that make sense?
There is going to be another meeting once you guys go through the next step with us.
Lots of other meetings.
Lots of other meetings, yeah.
There'll be several. both at PAC. So, bear in mind, it looks like this is our regular council meeting because it's all council that are here. But this is a planning advisory committee meeting. And as I said in the beginning, unfortunately, our 2 citizen representatives could not be here tonight. And one of them is the chair. So I would not normally be chairing this meeting. But when it comes to council, we will be the people, us 5 will be the ones that will be given the responsibility of making that decision. And we all know that, when we wanted to do this position, wanted these positions, and we were duly elected, we all know that there are difficult decisions that we have to make. But we want as much information to base those decisions on. We also agreed to that as a group when we first came together after being elected, that we'll base our decisions on good knowledge, good information, good input from those places where we need to get it. And we want to adhere to that. And that's why we wanted you here tonight. And we really appreciate you being here, by the way. We really appreciate it.
Clary McKinnon, 2326 Cowan Street. I have to make a point here. I have had no intentions of speaking tonight, but I have served on the councils, 3 separate councils, first elected to municipal government 55 years ago. And what the town of Westville is doing here tonight would not be happening in most municipal units in this province. There would be the hearing process later on, that there would be this kind of opportunity. The town of Westville here tonight should be commended for having a pre-hearing information session. I bet you, of all the municipal units in the province of Nova Scotia, most would not be doing this. So I would just like to commend you, and you're getting great input from the public here tonight, and it's very, very useful. But you have a process that you have to go through. You're mandated to go through it, and your decision will most likely be the final decision, because the province very, very seldom would interfere with the decision of the council, even though the councils of this province are actually creatures of the provincial government. But this is a good thing that's happening here tonight, and I think the residents appreciate it and should appreciate it, because it wouldn't be happening elsewhere, I don't think.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Anyone else? Please come up.
Hello, Gary Booked. I'm at 1022 Fraser Drive. So we recently moved here a year ago. And we just bought a house, and this was going to be our forever home, and it's a nice, quiet place. The back is green, super quiet place to live. We're from a big city. We're from Singapore and stuff, so this is nice. Learning about this really affected us. We were actually in the process of discussing buying the land beside us to put another house there, to rent it out. We have family and stuff, no problem. And this immediately, no, we're not going to do this. So if this is proposed and accepted, the land value and our house value is definitely going to go down. Is there going to be an immediate reduction in our property taxes? What other compensation are we going to be offered? Because not just the quality of life, but literally our value of our money is going to go down.
I can answer that for you very quickly. So just so you understand, and everyone understands, the property tax that you pay, we set the rate for the tax on a per 100 basis, but we do not determine the value of your property. That's done by the province. There's a separate entity.
Yeah, we get that information.
Called,
yeah.
yes, the Property Value Services, that they do the assessments, and they give the assessments to us as a town, and then then we come up with the rate, our rate, we set the rate, and then the dollar figure is determined by the math, right? Just so, you know, that part, I can say, if your scenario was correct in your assumption that the property values would diminish, they would diminish on the assessment done by by Property Value Services Corporation, and then in turn, if the rate were the same as it is now, yes, the amount that you're paying to us would go down, right?
Yeah, because you mentioned that like this may improve the town, so raise more money for the town, but at the cost of everyone here. So that's when I was like, what do we have any benefits? Right. The question on the like what your gut instinct are. The question of, so if you lived on Fraser Drive, what some of us do, this is our new backyard is going to be this. Would any one of you accept this? No, it is like that was the question wanted on my record of.
That's what they want.
Yes, was there? Like, yeah,
I
no,
can
this
say
is
that I can
worth
say
it.
that I would be here tonight as you are expressing, you know, what I felt were concerns that I might have. I'll say that.
All right, thanks. Thanks.
Oh, welcome to Westville, by the way, belatedly, obviously, but we're delighted that you're here. And we've had a lot of new people move into this town in the last couple of years, and we certainly welcome them. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Glenys Bowers. I just purchased a home actually on Fraser Drive. The home was actually delivered today.
Wow.
So,
welcome.
I was super excited about coming to Westville. I moved over from Newfoundland, and I was super excited about coming to Westville. My daughter lives on Fraser Drive, and it just made sense for me to live close to her. But now I'm really stressed because my house was delivered today. I know what the value of my house is. And now I'm like, it's my life savings. I'm a senior citizen. And a lot of planning went into it. And now I'm like, did I make the right choice? Is my house now going to be devalued, where I'm going to lose my, you know, what I worked towards to get this house? So that's my problem. And that's my stress about this. And also, Fraser Drive is so nice and quiet, and I just pictured being able to sit out on my patio. That's what I do. I love the outside anyway. And now I'm like, is that going to happen with this pollution and whatever else, that environmental stuff that's coming down the pipes with this stuff? Like, it is stressful. Like, it's, you know, especially at this stage in my life. And a new move. I'm not even in the house yet, and you know, the house got delivered today, and it was all exciting. There's a couple months before I get into it, so what's it going to look like? That's, you know, like the value of my house is definitely going to decrease, I think, with this coming, if this gets approved. And I know because my daughter's backyard right now is beautiful, and it's not, I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be that if this gets approved. It's going to be a different life for them as well, because they love their own backyard and they love their fire. They love their outside.
Yep.
And I don't see it being, you know, I can see the big changes coming there if this goes down, you know, so that's all I want to say.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Westville. Wow, you're probably one of the newest residents, if not the newest, this week at least, I would say.
This gentleman at the back.
Hi. I actually we just have the lot so far, but the house isn't on Fraser Drive yet. So I thought I'd come. Yeah, the house isn't even there yet, but. Oh, it's Kayla Bates. And I'm just wondering, so all these questions that we have, let's say, like, you know, everyone's like the tree line, the hedge that they're talking about. If you, like, what happens if we say, like, we want, like, we have obviously, we don't want it. But, like, the lights, let's just say that, like, what if you're like, well, they don't want this and they want it, like, how high would they be? Like, things like that. And what if they just said, like, no, we don't want to do that?
Then they wouldn't get approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Okay.
That's what I was referring to earlier. If it got to that point, we were doing the site approval, we can write into that what the terms will, be, what things we're looking for. Lights, I think Mr. Day referenced that.
Hours of operation.
Yes.
So
all
if they
those-
decline that, it's like absolute no from you guys.
All those things would be considered.
Okay.
Yes.
They'd have
Yes.
to abide
I think
by it.
that's all.
Thank you.
For any site plan approval.
For any site
Yeah.
line, any approval, yeah, not just this particular one, just in general.
You've been waiting.
I'm going to move this down because I'm short.
Hi.
Hello.
Whoa, that's loud. My name's Tara Mumberket, and I'm at 2105 Angel Street. Also, the same concerns as everybody here, but I also have concerns about any heavy trucks being on Old Truro Road. We have a lot of kids that walk down to Tim Hortons and Dairy Queen a lot or bike. There's no sidewalks, and I'm just concerned with a lot more heavy traffic, big traffic on that street. Also, besides the daycare, which both my kids attended, and I would not want my kids there if this was going on now. But the school, the elementary school is right in my backyard, and they will be able to hear everything as well. So it's not just all of these people, it's all the daycare children and all the elementary kids. And they're from pre-primary up to grade 6, so I don't know how many students are there, but it's a lot.
It is a lot.
What about children who are autistic and have sensory issues, like with all the noise? So, like, those are just some of my concerns. I know they'd be able to hear it because when they're outside playing at the school, even after school, I can hear the kids as if they're in my backyard. So it would definitely not just affect all us, but all those school kids and all their families as well.
Yeah.
So just something to consider.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good point.
Thank
Thank you very much. Next.
My name is Daniel Rude. I live on 41 Birch Hill Drive, Stellarton. And you're wondering, why is this guy even here?
Yeah.
Well, I actually do have a business here in Westville, but the reason why I'm here is because I've met a few of you, and a few of you know I've been seriously looking at the possibility of purchasing on Fraser Drive. And when I heard about this tonight, that's why I came. And some of what I'm hearing is making me very nervous. And I know that the mayor would love to see me come and become a resident of this community, a tax-paying resident like yourselves. But when I hear this, I'm having second thoughts, and it's making me nervous because I'm watching your reactions. I'm not against commercial development. I think it's important, and I do recognize for the good of a community, you do need to have it, but not at the expense of pre-existing people's residences and people's livelihoods. It would not be fair that the few here have to pay for the benefit of everybody else. So I think that's kind of the reaction I have. And as this rolls along, I'm going to be watching very carefully, but it better not take too long because eventually, if it goes too long, I'll be looking, unfortunately, elsewhere. The other thought I had was about C3. The little dotted line that's adjacent. What's the property line adjacent to the property in question? Because will this now roll over to the next property the same way, and then you end up with a constantly rolling commercial area? Is that a possibility? Is it zoned the same way?
So on this one, that flexible line?
Yes.
In this instance, the generalized future land use map wouldn't be updated. That line would stay where it is now.
Okay.
Only the zoning on this property would change.
Okay, because I was just wondering, would that line then move and then cascading? Because if it cascades, it wipes out, not just this neighborhood, but others. And a little bit of a cheek in me, I couldn't resist it, was I took note very careful on there that Barker is going to be paved within 3 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think the reference
I
was
think-
to the driveway, not to Barker Lane. The
Fraser
Barker Lane-
Drive was what they were talking about.
Well, now,
Matt
who's
was talking about Fraser Drive.
Who pays for that paving? The town or the landowner?
The development.
Oh, out there? No, we don't pay for it. The development itself?
That's what I was just wondering
No,
about the
that-
paving,
that's the
because
developer.
it said within 3 years, and I thought if the town was paying within 3 years, well,
No.
wouldn't
No.
they deserve
No.
within 3 years
No.
too?
No.
That's why I wondered. Okay. Yeah. Because paving is also another attraction for
I
me
think,
as a
I
potential.
think what the reference
resident.
to the paving was with regard to Fraser Drive, because Mr. Sangster asked me at one point, you know, where does it stand? And I said, it's not going to happen within the next 3 years, is all I can tell you.
I see. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see if I become your neighbor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rood.
Just to confirm, that 3-year paving was part of their proposal on that property. That, obviously, if this ended up coming all the way through approved, that is one of those things that could be mandated, and the town could say, one of the, I guess, one of the,
Requirements?
yes, thank you, conditions. One of the conditions would be immediate paving, because the last thing these people want, on top of everything, and they're already frustrated if it was approved, would be 3 years of truck dust. So, okay.
Good point. Good point.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sue Marchand. I'm 1034 Fraser Drive. My mother spoke earlier. My husband spoke. It is our backyard. I'm not going to repeat the same concerns that I have. I am a mother, and I have all of the same concerns for our children on our street. But I do have one question. The existing residents were given a notice that this was happening, but I did notice that Stones were not notified at all, and they're the major developer on our street. They've purchased all of the lots, and they're developing homes. They delivered my mom's today. So will you include them going forward? Okay,
That's
all
a
I
very
wanted
good
to know.
point. Very
Okay,
good point.
they had no idea.
They were,
They own all of,
They own all the properties that are not
Yep.
currently with homes on them.
no, it's true, but they were aware of this process.
Okay.
So they felt that, I think that the public would represent themselves.
okay.
properly.
Just as long as everyone is aware going forward, I think is the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, probably at this point, in this public engagement session that we're having, they wouldn't see a need to, comment, probably.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I don't know, that for
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
Just on that, I guess it's weird to say it through you to Sean, in this particular meeting, but when it goes through the process for an actual meeting itself, it's prescribed by the Municipal Government Act, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've chosen to go further for the next consultation for anything further than the prescribed minimum distance from the
Right.
property. So there's a minimum number of square feet around a property, 60 meters, which isn't a whole heck of a lot when you think of it. And we've decided long ago that we would go further beyond that distance to make sure that all of the adjacent properties within a distance, further than the minimum distance prescribed, would have the opportunity to know about meetings and things of that. This one not being driven by any prescriptive legislation, so I'm not sure who all got it.
Right.
But if it does move forward to the actual,
Yeah.
Hearing, we go beyond that prescribed distance, because we're not trying to just hit the minimum mark with this type of stuff either. So I think it's important for all the folks here to know that that's something that we're also doing.
Yeah, very good point.
Just to be clear on that, the MGA only requires 30 meters, and so.
It's very
the town-
minimal.
The town has already gone past
So,
that.
so the point is that when we get to the public hearing stage, if we get to that stage, the notification that goes out to let people know that that public hearing is taking place, it would involve a very few people, because it's a very small radius around the particular development. And what Councilor McGregor is pointing out, which is important, is that as a council, we've decided to go beyond that, well beyond that, because by my way of thinking, it was designed for very urban areas. So in Halifax, for example, if it was a development of that type of state, probably the 30-meter radius would, encompass a lot of people. Here, it could encompass very few people.
Depends on the part of town you're in.
Right, depending where you are.
There's areas of small lots, you can get dozens and dozens of people
Right.
notified, so.
Go ahead.
Right on.
You're on.
Brandon Dominics, live at 2509 Truro Road. So besides the daycare there, we're just the last single house beside all the other commercial spots. I wanted to touch on the flood risk. Does this land on the proprietor or the town for the flood risk that you mentioned during your presentation? So I don't know if you guys have ever seen 18 acres worth of snow get plowed, but it's quite a lot to melt in the spring. So does that land on the proprietor or the town? And if so, what is the plan?
Similar to what I think, I'll let Sean speak to this, but I'm thinking that, once again, that would be a part of any terms that were agreed to.
Okay.
So the standard is that there would be no increase in peak runoff on properties when something goes from a lot of permeable surface to a large amount of hard surface. So that's kind of the industry standard. It's, again, something that we're becoming more careful about just because we are having increased intensity rain events in particular.
Yes, exactly. That was another point during the hurricane season. Aside from the snow, those are two things that I don't know if a berm will necessarily keep from draining into the folks of Fraser, their backyards, right? So, second question is I wanted to touch on the gentleman in the front. Sorry, I forget your name. So during the developmental process of this 3 years for the road, for their land and their usage, what happens to us in regards to our taxes? So like you mentioned, it's based on our tax assessment, but the town of Westville is in agreement on like the percentage. So I know that the taxes can go down based on the buildings that are erected on it, but that will take some time.
Yeah.
So while this happens over the next 3 to 5 years, they could put all of these trailers, tractors, or whatever it is for 3 years and not put any buildings up while we still pay 2.13% and now have this in our backyard. So
The quick answer to that, and either these, someone can correct me, but the quick answer is that we have one rate for the town. We don't have individual district rates or particular areas of town, one rate, another portion of town, a different rate. So
Yes.
it's one rate.
yes.
So to answer your question, I think what you're asking,
Well,
it wouldn't change.
Yeah, my question is
We
do we
could
wait
not,
the 3 years?
so we would not change the rate on, so for example, Fraser Drive, Angel, Old Truro Road would not have a different tax rate than the rest of the town.
No, I understand. So while we wait for
So
them
it'd be
to
assessments driven.
develop the land, and that percentage will go down essentially as their taxes are paid due to their buildings they put on. It may take 3 to 5 years for them to develop the land and put the buildings on. In that meantime, as a whole town, do we continue to pay the 2.13%?
I think the answer is yes.
Okay, just
Yeah,
want to
so
make that clear.
The other thing to understand, I guess, is that unlike some other jurisdictions, the Property Value Services Corporation here in Nova Scotia does a pretty spectacular job of assessments. So they assess properties every year. Every December 31st, their assessments come out again. So they take a look at all properties. Just as a comparison, it's about every 5 years in Ontario. So like yours, if there was deemed to be a drop in property values, it would get reflected the next December 31st by the Property Values Corporation, so which is unbelievably fast in that business.
Yes.
So if there was a demonstrated drop in property values, their assessment would go down, your assessment would go down the following year, which is pretty good when, if you were living in Ontario, it would be 5 or 6 years later before you saw that drop in assessment.
Yes, so our tax assessment will go down, but our property value will also go down. And the rate at which we pay the property taxes will stay the same.
Correct.
Got you. Thank you. That's all.
The rate, not the amount necessarily, if the town.
If that even happens, yes.
If it happens.
Theoretically, yes, yeah.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Zach Myers. I'm at 1050 Fraser Drive. I just had a question. I'm a young person. I bought when we were moving into Westville, got to live by my in-laws. It's great. I'm not planning to leave, so I'm here for the long haul. After this property, let's say this does get approved, what happens after it's stuck as a C3? So if this company doesn't want to stay for the next 20 years, what happens after this, because if it stays as a C3, this could be anything that could be maybe not louder, but maybe dustier, maybe anything else. So I'm wondering, is this a process where we would be in a chat like this, where we have to approve every single building that goes up, which I assume not, but what would happen in that scenario?
Sean Day.
So, thanks, Zach. That's exactly why why I put up that list of all those other sorts of uses that could happen on that site, because that's part of what we have to consider and council has to weigh in terms of an application like this. Like, are all these uses that could go on that site appropriate uses to have adjacent to an existing residential community? And that's one of the hard things to really deliberate on. I also think that what this application has resulted in is us seeing that we need to spend some time with that zone. And really, that'll be another opportunity for you guys to come out and have a conversation about what are appropriate uses in a commercial highway zone and what are appropriate land use controls for that kind of zone.
I always did laugh when I was building with stones. There were so many bylaws and so many little things that we had to check mark and things. And now I do understand why those things are in place, of why you have the approvals and things like that. So I'm happy to take the time today, and thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm back. Two things. Number one, they mentioned that people were given notices. The daycare, as far as I know, got no notice at all. We actually got an email from a parent on Angel Street to attend the meeting. We didn't know anything about it. Two, there's talk about drainage issues. I can tell you firsthand at the daycare, we have flooding. We spent quite a bit of money a few years ago to build a drainage ditch behind the storage unit, and we still have issues with flooding. So please keep that in mind when you make your decision, because we're at the bottom of the hill from where this is proposed to go, and there is quite a bit of water that comes down that hill, especially when there's a lot of snow.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? This is the time. We welcome your comments.
If everything's approved, say, theoretically, I think it's further, just cut a little further to the other point. This company goes out of business in 6 months, and it's a C3. Does somebody then need approval for their plan on the C3, or is it now wide open to any type of development?
If it was as of right, there's one of the as of right uses for the C3, they would not need to go through that process. Similar to if you're in an R1, you want to build a house, you didn't have to go through a development agreement or site approval or anything, to do that. So one of the things that I want to point out, emphasize again, and I think it's been raised a couple times, is, our ability to control what is done on pieces of land within the town. I can tell you that the pieces that we currently own as a town, that you all share in the ownership of, that we all own collectively, we have put those things in place. And if someone comes to us and wants to buy a piece of land that we have for sale, and we're going to be talking about that, I think, in our meeting later on, the process and so on, we are very careful to say, here's what you can do, or here's what you can't do there. So if someone comes to us and wants to buy a particular piece of land and suggests, that they want to put, a type of building there that we don't think is suitable for that neighborhood, we'll say no. Or we will say in the sale, in the purchase and sale agreement, we will put in clauses that indicate what we expect from them as far as what they're going to do with that land. Number one, they're going to use it. Number one, they're going to put a house on it, let's say, if it's R1. Because for too long, people have bought pieces of land within town, and we see the evidence of it now. If you drive around town, many, many places where there are vacant lots we don't own, people own, other individuals own, that nothing's on them. And nothing on them doesn't generate any revenue for the town. So it doesn't help all of us here sitting in this room to have a lower tax rate, for example, because we're not getting that revenue. So we're very conscious of doing that moving forward, and have been for the last number of years. That when we have a piece of land, we want to make sure that it gets the maximum use available to it. And that's the other part too. We're looking at a lot of what we refer to as infill, those places where there are those vacant lots and so on, trying to get people to put something on them. Sorry for this. This is our system. We, more revenue. We could have a better system as well. We could do a lot of things. We could pay Fraser, tomorrow. These are the things that I think that, not everyone is going to appreciate or understand. So that goes to the point of this particular property. Just to reiterate, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, and I don't want to belabor it, but I think it's extremely important, once again, that you understand we do not own that property, and we can't dictate to the person, well, we can to some degree, who they can sell it to and what it can be used for.
Do you guys have land that you could go to the buyer and say, hey, we got this, do you want to go put it
Not to that degree, no. Not that would be appropriate for what they're talking about.
Bode well in the old high school property.
No.
That's about the
No.
only thing we own
No.
of that. Like,
And that's a good example.
21 acres is down by the school, and that's it.
What's that?
And that's a good example. Councilor McGregor raised the school property, the 21 acres there. We have set about, through the work of Sean and Scott and so on, to clearly define how we want to see that property used beyond the school being repurposed. So we've divided it up, that 21 acres, into sections, and we're saying clearly, here's the type of development that can go there. So if developer A comes along and wants to buy that piece of property, a portion of that property, we'll say to them, yes, we'll gladly sell it to you, but here's the use that we expect to be on that property. Here's the type of dwellings or structures we expect to see on that property. So that's we don't have that control on this one. I guess the reason I'm making that point, bringing that up, is to illustrate the difference in this situation. We do not have the ability to take that to the owner of the property, right?
I have one more question. If this land is now becomes a C3, and as you were stating earlier about all these storage areas, I think you were showing some containers or something for storage. Now, if that is designated C3, at some point in time, what if somebody decides they want to store toxic waste or propane or anything like that? That can happen?
Definitely not toxic waste.
But any like
chemicals and gas.
Yeah, I mean.
Again, we'd have to go through the C3 list, and
It's quite a large.
Well, it's already
it's a long list.
It's already permitted at Air Liquide at this particular
yes,
moment.
yeah.
There is already at the top there. It's already permitted at Air Liquide. So not toxic, but most certainly controlled hazardous products. Of course, yes, and that's again, and it's switching a zone from what it is residential to a C3. That's a quantum. That's a quantum leap, right? And that's a consideration that we all, have. I wouldn't say in the back of our mind here, probably in the floor of our mind. So, for that exact reason, especially when, you consider, again, like I said earlier, I'm not sure how you can have a C3 zoning that it permits bulk storage, but also would permit a childcare, right? And that's a bigger issue with the zoning, the intermunicipal zoning that we have for the municipal units here.
Like when you said, is that Nova Scotia zoning, is that federal, or is it just provincial?
It's the 5 towns.
Like, or like that?
We have right now we have an agreement amongst the towns on the similar land use bylaw. That seems to be going by the wayside, and we're working on having our own, going back to having our own land use bylaw for Westville, as some of the other units are doing a similar thing.
Too many things in not enough buckets, I guess, is
Right.
probably the way to say it. There's just, you're trying to cover off all the potentials, but then as of right permitted usages, they conflict and are very offensive to one another sometimes. Not to mention the offensiveness just between a residential zone and kind of any other commercial or industrial application, right? So this is even, I have concerns, and I'll be vocal, I have concerns even with the C3 zoning itself out at the highway and how it relates to some of the properties that are existing C3s out there that are undeveloped at this particular moment. But that's not what's in front of us tonight.
Right. Go ahead.
Hello, Leslie Long. I'm at 2073 Angel Street, and I guess I don't have much more to add what they say. I moved on the street maybe 19 years ago, before kids in our little house, and decided to stay once we had kids. We used the absolutely wonderful daycare that was close by, the elementary school. I now have a son out at the high school. It's very central to everything, even to where I work. And we have a wonderful community. When I moved on that street, it was before it was joined to Spring Garden. It was woods, and I was told it was going to be this great neighborhood, family, again, close to everything. My taxes were a whole lot less that year I moved in than they are now. But I just want to throw my support out to everybody, to what everyone else is saying. And there's a lot more, excuse me, people in our neighborhood that can't make these meetings at the times that they're at.
Right.
But there'll be more people following along as the more dates or whichever the next time. Just as long as we all know when we're supposed to come to the next ones and when they all are.
Yeah,
There
we
will be, I believe, more people in the neighborhood. So
Yes, you definitely
just
will.
throwing my name in the hat that I support no too. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Maybe going forward, when you send out letters, maybe put them in people's mailbox or something, so everybody in there would be notified?
We also put it on our, by the way, we also put it on our web page and our Facebook page, the town page, so it goes to everyone or anyone that wants to avail themselves to that. And we post it on the door downstairs, so it's beyond just the residents. Pardon?
You have more responsibility than social media to distribute that information to us folks on Fraser.
Right. Yeah.
And also, before we leave, is there a place where we can go look at the Pictou County municipal bylaws? And what is the bylaw for zoning on a daycare?
The municipal bylaw you can find online. Yeah, just Google the Municipal Act.
It's on the town website.
Yeah.
It's a town bylaw.
It's on our town.
Town of
bylaw
Westville.
page. Yeah.
Is there different zoning for a daycare and residential?
So it doesn't work quite that way. The daycares can be permitted in different zones. So when you go to individual zones, you can see where daycares are permitted, and then in other zones they're not permitted. So it's kind of the opposite of what you're thinking it might be. If you follow me, like for example, in C1, you can have daycare. In the C3, you can have daycare. So it's organized that way, as opposed to daycares can be erected in the following zones.
Is the abutting zoning different?
The zoning of the daycare, I believe, is C3 right now.
It is, yeah.
It's the same as residential,
No, it's the
No,
same as
it's
commercial.
the same as
It's
commercial.
it's an allowable use within that particular commercial zone, just like it's an allowable use within the downtown commercial zone.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Haley McIntosh, and I live at 2509 Trail Road. My fiance and I bought our house in September, and we put everything we had into it. And looking in the backyard, I love seeing all those trees. It keeps, you guys on your street, me on mine. We don't want to see each other in our backyard. And it's nice having those trees there because all the trucks, it helps bounce off the sound. We're planning to have kids, and just picturing our kids in the backyard, we don't want that in there. And I just want to show my support to everyone out here, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Anyone? I'm not going to pressure anyone to speak if they don't wish to, but I can say on behalf of council and staff, I believe that we are more than greatly appreciative of you coming tonight and what you've all had to say to this point in time. And yes, if it moves through the process, if we're moving forward on this, we'll certainly get notification out to you and as many ways as possible and to as many people as possible. Just even beyond what we're required to do, as was said before, because we went by that, very, very few people would have to get notified. I hope that you understand, to go to one of the points that was raised, we certainly are listening. That's why we wanted to do this. We certainly will take your comments and suggestions and questions into consideration if we get to that point. I guess we don't, Sean perhaps knows the proponent's, desire and where they're at as far as moving this forward through the process more than I do, certainly. But, we'll go through the process. We'll follow the rules that's required of us, and we'll make a decision. But your input is extremely important. There's no question about it. And by the way, I sense from all of you being here tonight and just listening to you, you have a great community in that part of town. And I recognize that. I think we all do. And I think all the time that, yes, we're one town, we're one community, but we do have certain little communities within the community. And your general area down there, which is one of the newer developed areas in town, obviously, is that. It's a community almost within the community. And I think those types of pocket communities are extremely important moving forward as a town. And that's it's one of the visions that we have, that Planning Advisory has had and Council has had over the last few years, is to create those feelings of belonging. And I also sense the pride that you have and why you want to live in Westville, which is extremely important, I think, Yes, I said we need the facts, but emotions are sometimes important, right? We're all in the same boat. So I really appreciate your comments on behalf of Council and the Planning Advisory Committee. Sorry for spilling the water and causing a commotion at the beginning. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had one more question. So you'd mentioned about the appeal process. So does the appeal process require legal representation? Like, do we need to get a lawyer? Should we get a class action lawyer?
No.
I don't think anyone here is not going to appeal.
No.
So I just want to know what's the process for that. So,
and you don't need to appeal now because no decisions have been made.
No.
But if it came to that, I
very
understand.
second, I think everyone here will appeal, and it's just what was necessary.
It's not a tribunal of like a court. It's I guess it's more. It is a tribunal maybe rather than a trial.
Rather than a court.
Rather than a court.
Yeah.
So you do not need legal representation. You can it's almost like small claims court, right? Where you can go and represent yourself.
Yeah, Your Honor, all you need to appeal is a letter to the Nova Scotia Regulatory Appeals Board.
Yeah.
So, at that meeting, that future meeting where a decision is made, we will, the town will be able to tell whoever wants to appeal, whether it's the residents or the proponent, this is how you appeal.
Yeah, we'll make it very easy and clear.
I want to just ask one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
So if the plans come through and everybody likes the plans, let's imagine this, but plans are plans. What happens if they don't follow through on them? It's a private person selling to a private company. What rulings do we really have if they don't want to put any tree line there? What if they want to put their trucks right beside the back of Fraser Drive? What do we do in those scenarios?
Good question.
We certainly have an enforcement mechanism. Sean?
So, under a site plan approval, if someone is doing something contrary to the terms of the site plan approval, we would bring. I feel like I am. I'm clearly too short.
You have to really project, Sean.
Yeah, right into it, Sean.
We gotta get better mics. Sorry. There's a process when you have infractions against the land use bylaw or against a site plan approval, and effectively we would write an order to correct the situation that is at odds with either the land use bylaw requirements or the site plan approval requirements. And normally a warning is adequate to get things changed, but if it is not addressed in a timely manner, then you have to go through legal approaches.
So just to expand on that, Westville has had in the past a developer who chose not to execute his site plan and ended up in court being charged. So, this town has a track record of actually enforcing site plan agreements. to the point of having somebody end up in court and be charged.
How long did that process take?
Oh, way too long.
Yeah.
It's a 3-year process, but the point is, remediation was ordered by the court, and that is the way the justice system works.
But you guys gotta sign off on the site plan approval, right?
Correct.
Right.
Make it hard for them, make it so they can't afford to do it. We want 20-foot walls, right?
I won't say that we've done that in the past, but we have, to a degree. We put some conditions on, there was a few development that, since I've been around, that we did put very, very stringent conditions on that were not appealing to the proponent.
Yeah, and so the challenge with that approach is on appeal, if the Nova Scotia Regulatory Appeals Board finds that the town was unreasonable, it gets undone.
Yeah.
So you have to find that balance point between, being reasonable or unreasonable on both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but berm and trees aren't reasonable, right, for these guys on Fraser Drive. That's not reasonable.
No,
I mean,
no, those things are not.
you gotta look, you gotta do things properly, right? You just can't put a berm and trees.
So how do we, as residents of Fraser Drive, how do we make sure that our voice is heard with those conditions in place? Do we have a say with those?
By coming to these sorts of meetings, this is how you do it.
If we
You
have
have
get
to be
the,
persistent, right? You have to come to the meetings that are, there are a number of meetings that will be coming up as this thing proceeds through the process. Do not get lazy about it and think that because you've come once, that's enough. It is not. Be persistent.
and we're mandated, the public, there will be a public hearing process, all right? And that's the one that's mandated, so that's the one you really need to be at, in my opinion, like you are tonight, really.
So just as a point of clarification on this, the way I see this unfolding is that council would not likely approve a rezoning until they had in hand an agreed to site plan approval that, in council's opinion, meets the requirements or the mitigative work that would have to be done to provide a kind of quality of environment that you guys are seeking for yourselves. And we would then go through the rezoning appeal, and only when that gets finished would then there be the ability to sign off on that site plan approval. And that has to be distributed to everyone within 60 meters of the property, and everyone who receives that has the ability to appeal to council. So even if the rezoning were to go through, if people weren't ready to take on the utility and review board, I'm going to keep saying that for a while, you would still have the opportunity on the site plan approval coming forward and being sent out to you to appeal to council if that was approved. So that's this group in front of this group saying, no, we're not on. This has not been done to a level which we feel will secure our quality of life.
You mentioned that this has happened before where someone didn't abide by the laws and they got taken to court and charged.
Right.
Just charged. So what if they got charged, they're like, huge company, big whoop, we got charged, we're just going to continue on. What happens then if they don't fix, per se, the problem?
Breach of a court order.
It'd be a court order.
It's a court order. They have.
So if it was a court order, I'm not like super familiar. So let's say they get charged, it's a court order, and they don't abide, what happens to the land then?
So if I could just jump in on this one, there are provisions in the Municipal Government Act where the municipality can actually step in and do the work.
Okay. So if they didn't do it, someone else would?
We would do it.
We would do it.
We would.
And
You
bill
guys
them.
would have to
bill
do
them
it.
for it.
And then
And
they
bill
have to
them
pay
for
They
it.
have to pay us for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's very similar to other situations that come up if there's a building that's deemed to be unsightly or needs to be demolished and the owner chooses not to do it after a prescribed time. We will step in and have it done and bill that person. So that's happened before.
And how long does that take to do it? Obviously, it's too long, right?
All these processes are too long for me, but yes, it would take some time.
So I have a question. If hypothetically it went through and there was an appeal, does things stop while the appeal's going on? So the work would stop while the appeal, okay. Just wanted to make sure that that's all.
Until a decision, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Anything else? I feel like an auctioneer sometimes. Who's going to up that bid? Reiterate again. Thank you very much. And the other thing I want to say is, we're halfway through our agenda as a planning advisory committee tonight, after 2 hours, which is not a problem. We're used to that. But what I want to say is, if you really are interested in what's going on in town, and I say this all the time, look at the planning and development reports that we get from Mr. Day. You can find those on our website, on our sites. It'll tell you the degree of activity that's going on in town. Just to be positive, I'd like to start with a positive somehow and end with a positive thing. And the positive thing that I hope all of you take, and because we're all a part of this and we're all going to benefit from it, the development that's happening in town. And I think it should be noticeable to most people, but it's like an iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg is what's being seen right now. And we have such potential in this town to move forward in ways that we haven't moved forward in some 30 years. The degree of development that we have potential and ongoing right now is something we haven't seen in this town for 30, 35 years. And so that's a very positive thing in my mind. And just look around at some of the things that are happening in town. Go. Because we don't have the financial capability to do it. Simple. There's no financial ability. They're not putting money into those things necessarily. Absolutely. So, just to go to that process again, there is a rating system that comes to before council every year from our public works and engineering to say, here's the roads that I think are prioritized in need of being looked at for repaving or paving. And so it has to do with the traffic volume on that area, the usage of the street, the importance of the street to the town in a safety factor as well, and the condition, obviously, of the street. Right. Yeah. So I can announce, because I don't know if this has been made public yet, I'm going to do it anyway, that on Fraser Drive and the end of Spring Garden, or on Spring Garden where the pavement ends and the gravel begins, we are proposing to do what we refer to as an apron this year. It's going to happen fairly soon, I expect. So we're going to put pavement from Angel Drive towards where the mailboxes are, just to give a landing pad, so to speak, or an extension. The information that we have from those that know is that area, when you first come on the street or leave the street, because of stopping and starting and so on, is the area that becomes the worst as far as potholes and things are concerned. So we found enough money by hook and by crook to do that this year as a starting.
You should drive up our street more often because it's the whole street. We have no
I understand that. No denying that.
This far off the paper, off the gravel.
Yep. No denying that.
Sinkhole in front of his house still. Like a very big sinkhole. Like you guys don't, come on, do something with the whole street. Make us happier. You know what? I've
Hey.
actually cleaned our ditches for the last 3 years. We still have growth up over my kids.
I think if we had a magic wand up here, we'd do every street in town that needs to be done.
We had all kinds of money to do it last year for streets that had to be.
We do. We do that.
Why are we the second highest tax in Nova Scotia?
because our assessments, the assessed value that we have in the town do not meet the requirements that we have to provide essential services, just the basic essential services that we're required to provide to residents. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. It's a mathematical thing.
I just have a quick question, and I'm not trying to be naive with the whole tax thing and all this stuff.
Yep.
But assuming this goes through, and which I know everybody, none of them wants, but are you really going to get a whole bunch of tax revenue from a great lot that's got a bunch of trucks?
No, we're not. We're not going to get the tax revenue that we would all like to see from that particular piece of land, to answer your question bluntly. Our preference, I guarantee you.
If it's a couple of sheds and an office,
No,
there's not a whole lot of
we recognize that.
value there.
Our preference would be that, as was mentioned before by someone, how many units you could put in there in a residential development. But we can't, the point I
don't
made
have the
before,
choice.
we don't have the ability to make that, to say to that owner of that property, here's what you need to do with that property.
But you do have a choice if you vote against it.
Absolutely.
We do for rezoning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that's, but yeah, I mean, the point is, it's a process. It takes time.
Does that be unanimous vote amongst all of you, or?
No, it has to just to be
Majority
it has to be a
voice.
majority. Majority vote.
Yeah.
There's 5 of us. Need 3 votes. 3 out of 5. My math is right. Yeah, no, that's, and those are all valid considerations that you've raised, I think, tonight, and we will certainly look at those things. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about that. But I would encourage you to look at some of the other things that are on the agenda and make yourself available to look at those going forward as the months go ahead. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is, July 1st is coming, so we got a good captive audience here. The fire department does an amazing job of organizing our July 1st activities, as you all know, in this town. And I want you to, encourage people yourselves and all your relatives and friends to come out and take advantage of all those activities that are going to be on more than July 1st, but for the entire week, basically starting next week, really. And we have on behalf of council, we have a social in the Acadia Park on the 30th. At 6:30 on the 30th, ice cream social. We're going to be dishing out ice cream. You can come and throw it in our face if you wish, but we're going to give it to you. You can do what you want with it after that. We encourage you to come out to that and say hello. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to see you at many events. And the other one I want to mention, a shameless plug, because I'm involved in helping Reverend Mary Taylor in the organization of the 100-kilometer walk, raising money for Food for Focus, which, many of you, I'm sure, have had children, if you don't now, had at Walter Duggan. And it's supporting 15 families there that are food insecure. And gives them food throughout the year when they're not in school, and on weekends and so on. And it's a great worthy cause. And Mary is going to walk 100 kilometers by herself on Saturday, coming up on the 21st. And there's going to be lots of events going on in town, down at the St. Paul Church, and I know at the Legion. Danielle Fraser, our counselor here, is heavily involved in that. And come out and participate in the walk. Mary would love to see people walking with her in portions of the walk. She's going to be walking from 4 o'clock in the morning till midnight. That's her estimate, at least. I hope she can do it in those times. And so I just encourage you to do that. And look at the events that are going on in Canada today. Because there's lots of events for the entire week, and we want you to take advantage of those. That's my announcements as far as the things going on in town right now. So we're going to move on with our agenda, I believe, if everyone has no further questions. And you're we'd encourage you to stay, in fact, but you are free to move about the cabin, as the pilot would say. But we'd encourage you to stay. We're going to move on to the Planning and Development report. In fact, right now, Sean Day.
Thank you all very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a moment to stretch my
Absolutely.
legs.
Yeah.
We'll take a moment for the...
You want to table your report till next meeting and then go through the updates?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for that.
Yeah, we can do that, too. We'll take a brief pause. Thanks,
Thank
Stu.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
of
you.
course. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I know
you.
it's not easy dealing with angry residents, and thank you for taking the time to explain that it's not your ideal. We all understand that. When you make your vote, just picture yourself as a parent, right? If you are, or if you have a family, just really take that into consideration.
Got it.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So we're going to take a brief break. What's everyone's wish?
You can't turn it off, though, no. If you turn it off, you can't come back on. That's the only thing.
We just turn off our mics. We will be back, you people, you YouTube people. 2 minutes, YouTube people, and we'll be back after this commercial break.
Anyway, nice to see you. Good to see you, and welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Where's the agenda?
And you're dressed differently every single time.
Yeah, I figured I'd come as Mr. versus the other. Yeah. I change hats so many times.
Oh, I know all about that.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
That was actually. Also, I just got a site plan for 4 sets of 4 towns. Line up in the men's room.
I've literally moved all those. This is where I'm
It's before it really starts to slow down.
So it's off one.
Well, if we're talking about this one, it's right beside it. It's the next place.
Looking for me?
Well, thank you.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order after a little recess. So we're on to Planning and Development Report.
Yeah, Your Worship, if you would accept it, I would make a motion to defer the Plan and Development Report to the next PAC meeting.
And I will second that.
Motion's always acceptable. You heard the motion, ready for the question?
Question.
Question's called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Okay, so that brings us down to just a couple updates then on the 8A, which is the Shaw Drummond Compact Homes update.
Do you want me to do this? Yeah, so there isn't much to say other than we do know that they are close to coming forward with a building permit request. When that'll happen, I have no idea. I did reach out earlier today, to Shaw to say, tick-tock, time is ticking by, and you know, we think you should be doing it sooner than later. And by the way, Canada Day Parade is in a week and a half, and you might want to put a honkin' big sign up. You've got 15,000 people, 10 to 15,000 people in this town who could be your clients, customers. So you might want to do that. So beyond that, I haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks. But as I said, the last time was, okay, we're getting ready to submit our building permit request. Main Street initiatives, Megan's Place. So the construction has been completed. The playground is cordoned off to try and give the sod that's been placed a chance to take root before we turn herds of little kids on it. I'm sure that the week it won't be sufficient, but it's the best we can do. So the screening or the cladding, the fencing comes down on I guess Monday morning, Monday the 23rd. So that's Megan's Place, pop-up market, for lack of a better phrase. You'll notice that there are 5 shops there. We still have to put in electricity. There's some gravel that needs to go in. And I believe probably tomorrow I understand that there's some debate about the orientation of some of the buildings, and we will be reorienting 2 of the buildings, hopefully, possibly tomorrow. The front ones, the 2 in the front.
2 on the right-hand side. Yeah.
Correct.
Closest to Lynn's.
Yeah, I think we'll make it more aesthetically pleasing, really, I think.
Okay.
I did a little plan out today just to kind of show people what we're trying to get to. I thought it makes sense just to...
Yeah, if you want to put it up on the, hook up your computer and put it on the screen.
Put one up down there for the residents to see too, actually, because folks are asking me what it's supposed to look like, and honestly, I don't know that I've ever seen a rendering. There probably was.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have to stand up anymore. I can just do this from the comfort of my seat. Stand up all day. So obviously, all the stuff is not there that we hope to have there. So that's part of why it's looking a little bit odd. See if I'm getting the right model.
I think that the color of them and how they look, it looks a lot better than some other places that I've seen them done.
Excellent.
I think they're very nice. Yeah.
While Sean's doing that, we should make note that the splash pad is now open. Splash pad opened this week from 10 in the morning till 7 at night. So we were, and Megan's place will be open for use on the 23rd, Monday. So the whole facility
Grand
will-
opening is the 30th?
The grand opening will be on the 31st of July, of course.
31st, yeah.
Official grand opening.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just go on to C while we're waiting. We are continuing to, oh, okay.
Sorry.
And,
Of course, it's not showing what my screen is showing.
no, he's not coming up yet.
Hang on.
And we'll need to flip the switch, whatever we do, to make it visible to YouTube. It's already there? Okay.
Why is it choosing to show anything that I don't want to show?
Because it's been a long day.
Yep.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. It's all
Mhm.
It came up correctly last time. It's interesting.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
Like, that's not.
Let's just try something here, just see if it wants to.
That is my screen. Really far away from it.
We're a little far away from Westville there on that map, I think.
Yeah. Just closing everything I can close here.
Can you just drag it over to the other screen? Is it maybe, is it showing? Might have to go one way or the other.
Maybe while Sean,
Oh,
there
there
it
it
is.
is.
Okay, we found it.
Oh, now it's going to be hard to control because I'm like a mile away here.
My work computers do that too. It's
Yeah.
annoying. Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of what, we're looking to achieve. So right off the bat, there's an empty spot where we're hoping to have a
Food truck or something?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that makes it a little odd. And things like
Picnic tables.
benches, that sort of thing. Hopefully some kind of a gazebo structure for when it's too hot, you want to be in the shade, or when it's spinning rain out.
So just let me just remind everybody, what we did to get the 5 units and the money to put in the gravel and the roadway and the electricity for those all came from an ACOA application, right? So we got that. The amenities that Mr. Day is showing you, the gazebo, the benches and all that, is part of a subsequent application we have made to the provincial government this time for additional money to put up the gazebo, to put in the benches, to put in the landscaping, to purchase some tables and some chairs, maybe a sound system, and to have a person there to animate this place, develop programming for that venue through the summer.
Right.
I am waiting for the Department of Community and Economic Development to decide whether they are going to give us the money to do that. I have made it clear to them through back channels that now would be a very good time to decide if you're going to give us the money or not. Because, deciding to give us the money in November, not particularly helpful. It would be helpful to get the money now, and if you're not going to give it to us, fine, just tell us and we'll move on, right? So I'm hoping that we get an answer one way or the other in the not too distant future.
Okay. Excellent.
So with the proposed move tomorrow, it'll look more that configuration. So basically what you're going to do is turn those that are currently back-to-back sort of thing on the right-hand side, looking at it from the street, around to face inward. The doors will face to the courtyard.
Be aligned in this orientation.
Right.
I'm showing one of the ones with the horizontal as over here because that's how it fits best on the site.
Right.
And then I have another one here because I showed that this way. I'm still hoping to save that big tree. And that allows us to bend the road around to save the one really large tree. Trees make such a difference.
I know, but it's.
Yeah, I don't know if I can see it, but I can turn off all the trees on the site. All right. On my computer, but I can't because it's not on the computer. It's a very different feeling site when there's no trees. And of course, I've added trees here that actually aren't here.
Yeah, those trees grew quickly, yeah.
And, ideally, we would, if we had the infusion of gas, we would actually put some trees in. impossible to wind around it, just the way things are laid out now. So
So how many parking spaces are you actually thinking you're putting in there?
Whatever that number is.
Oh, there's no way. Looks like about 20.
I can't
no
imagine.
way what?
There's no way that fits there.
Oh, it
yes.
does. This
Does
is
it?
accurate to a
Yeah.
16th of an inch.
With the one-way lane
Yeah.
coming in on a blind corner of the building, okay?
There's no one-way lane, that's 20 feet wide. Or actually 16 feet wide. That's 2 lanes. This
Site-
is
site-
partly-
I would
this
say
is
site
partly up
conditions.
on Lynn's land, right? That portion of the parking. We still have a
Yeah.
ton of land over here that we're not gonna use it for this. But that distance, I can't read because it's microscopic. Maybe Danielle, can you see that number?
No,
It should
but
say
Kristen
something-
might be able to.
Yeah, it should say something like 16 and down here.
It did say it one something.
Yeah, that's 20, and then there's another 20, and there's 20. So
What
60
is it
feet.
at the mouth of the curb and gutter coming in the building between Lynn's and the first,
Out here?
yeah, that's my concern.
Okay.
On that blind
It could be
corner
quite
coming in.
wide. There's more width there than we need to get in. Like when you look at the drop curve there, there's tons of width. This is just possible.
People have been
I'm
coming in and out of
probably
there
showing you at
forever.
16, but there's more space than that.
Right?
Kristen, can you see what that says?
17.
17. So a car is 6 feet wide. And the drop curve is wider than that. It's not that wide. What do you guys think about the idea of a food truck, and how would you get one if you could? Because it would really help activate the space.
Well, it may not just be one food truck, it would be open to people
Yeah.
with food trucks to come and
There's folks, there's folks that rotate around.
rotate around, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
there's
Not just
quite a
one
few.
truck that's gonna be there permanently, obviously.
So somehow we need to get the word out that we're
Well-
open to
That we're open to
That we're open to food
Yes.
trucks? Sure,
we will
yeah,
put the
here's
word-
the
we will
scoop
put
and
the word
stuff,
out.
yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
put the
County
word out.
partnership.
right, yep.
There's gonna be at
Could
least
bring it
one
up
food
at the
truck in town
LOC.
on Saturday that I'm aware of for the 100.
To Riverview, the Riverview people about having a river run stand here, and they were interested in that. I don't know if they've done anything about it.
Where's their propane?
They would like to have a presence in Westville. They would
I
like
b-
to have the old.
I believe our permitting for a vendor permit is like $50, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not expensive for a vendor to come in.
For sure.
Yeah,
Man, that'd been cool.
got a lot of talented people.
Does their propane tank cause any issues? That driveway coming in, I'm just looking at the.
Well, that's been used now that's been used for however long Lynn's has
Yeah,
been
but
there.
nobody's been driving adjacent to it, though, yeah.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
we feel we need to, or if we're advised we need to, we can.
Oh, fuel
use the
safety,
hydro-
fuel safety, they'll tell you.
I've
to-
spoken to the.
Oh, yeah, the propane tank, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
It's the provincial fuel safety folks.
Oh, yeah.
too.
So it's pretty easy with the hydrovac plug to make holes and pumps and.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll definitely have to be
It's
protected.
far enough back. I guess I'm just looking the overhead versus what you have there, which is different, because that's more accurate than what the property line. This is as is, but the property lines aren't delineated on what I'm looking at.
Right. This is
I have my other
underneath
computer,
this,
but-
you can't see it on this right now, because I don't have, my controls are missing altogether, but the survey is on here, the satellite view is on here, it's all kind of a composite drawing based upon all of those things together.
Mhm.
Sale.
Oh, yeah.
We only had it surveyed 3 times,
Right. Yeah.
right? And went back to the 1880, deeds from the
Unbelievable.
1880s to get the property lines right.
And we should say, as far as the other part of this is who's going to occupy those things, those pop-ups. We're working with Pictou County Partnership.
Yep.
They're driving that. And the information that Scott had from them is that they had 8 applicants for the 5 locations. So
Good.
it looks like we
So
have.
We'll see what we get.
We'll see what we get, but it looks like, we're going to have uptake on it to have immediate occupancy as soon as we're able to have them
Good.
finished.
That's great.
You can see here the underlying
Yeah.
information.
So the people that rent it, like the onus is gonna be on them to make sure that they're up to snuff with all the regulations and stuff like that,
Correct.
right? That's not
Yeah.
gonna be fall back
No.
onto us.
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All we're doing
Making
is
sure
providing
it
the
works.
space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's the ETA for, I guess, Nova Scotia Power or Electrical?
Hopefully this week, but I
Okay.
don't know.
million-dollar
Nova Scotia
question,
Power,
yeah.
This
Yeah,
is a bit
fair
of a
enough.
challenge for us to, but, you know, we've had our ticket in for several weeks already, so we're hoping that they get around to us.
All right, we're back. Whatever button you have to push, I don't know. I don't know how this works.
There we go.
There we go.
Right.
Okay.
Sale of town lots.
I'll say, sale of town lots, the next
Yeah,
item.
just, we did in the end up selling the lot on Acadia Street. So that has happened. So we're proceeding with that. I expect that there will be, in the fullness of time, probably into next spring before there will be development on that particular lot. But I expect we'll start to get in the fall. We'll start to get some sense of what the purchaser is planning to put on that property. The purchaser is the same purchaser that's putting in the 24 units, so it makes perfect sense. There are another couple of lots that people are starting to express some interest in. I've had a couple people into my office asking about it. You know, I've made the point of explaining that, you know, we're public land, so we have to dispose of it in a public way, and that we've chosen to use the real estate approach to it so that anybody anywhere can bid on the properties. You know, biggest check wins, basically. And that there will be, as the mayor was saying earlier, a condition on the sale, a condition of sale of any of those public lots or public lands is that that a dwelling be put on it within 24 months, and that that the construction of that dwelling be completed within 12 months of applying, of getting a building permit. So we'll continue to roll those out in a kind of methodical way, so that don't want to put, you know, 6 or 7 properties on the market at the same time. So we're just going to roll them out slowly, encourage everybody to watch. You know, generally we've been using Blinkhorn because of, you know, we developed a bit of a relationship with that firm, and we'll be rolling those out. So I encourage people to watch for that. You know, before we can dispose of any public property, it needs to come to here, and you as council need to be satisfied that there is no strategic use for that particular property from a municipal perspective, and we'll continue to bring those forward as they happen. With regard to Highland Consolidated Middle School, we have had a meeting with NSCC. Yes, NSCC, I guess it was last week or the week before?
A couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, I guess.
Excuse me, Mr. Weirs, just a quick question. The lot on Rundle is not listed as for sale.
It's not listed for sale, no.
Oh, I thought it was.
No.
Okay.
No. Highland Consolidated School met with NSCC. They, in the building condition review, they discovered that the joists in the school are called Robb joists, R-O-B-B joists, which were manufactured by Robb Joists, the firm, back in the 80s. There were structural manufacturing defects in these joists,
In general, not necessarily specifically
yes,
the ones in the school.
Well, all the Robb joists
Right.
Were suspected of having manufacturing defects in them. There was, and so that would be a very concerning thing. The good news is that I've been in contact with the school authority. They have assured me verbally that the joists in the school were inspected in the 1990s and found to be compliant, and that there was an engineering report developed, The school authority just is struggling to locate the actual report. Once they find it, then we will be in very good shape, I think, to go forward, or NSCC will be in very good shape to go forward. So we're just waiting for them to find that, go through their archives and find that report, and that'll be very helpful.
And we have signed the purchase and sales
And
agreement.
we have an signed agreement of purchase and sale. There we go. So we'll be start into that process of transferring the building and 3.2 acres to NSCC in the next short while. So all of those are very good things, and they are meeting with funding organizations, the province, CMHC, over the next little while.
And they've done their environmental review
right.
as well.
Right.
And it costs basically, whatever that term is that they use, that I can't remember, cost analysis or...
Oh, yeah. So they're starting to do, you know, they have not done their engineered drawings, they haven't done their pro formas yet, and so they're now starting to go down that road. Now that they've heard that the Rob joists have been inspected and passed, they are confident to be able to go forward and start to do, you know, spend some real money on architects and designers and get mechanical.
And that came from that
drawings and
that
all
inspection
sort of stuff.
process, when they discovered they were the Rob Joyce, the firm that they had doing the inspection, recognized them as Rob Joyce's, and that concern that had existed back in the 80s with, you know, generally throughout the other areas. And our comment at the time was, that was never mentioned when they closed the school. I would think, and my thought initially was, if that was the case, they would have used that as the reason to close the school.
Yeah.
Been very legitimate reason. So we're happy to hear that.
Mr. Day, do you want to talk about active transportation?
Well, there's only been one meeting so far, and they've engaged WSP. They found funding to engage WSP, which is one of the larger planning and engineering consultancies in the province. Well, actually, they're international, and they have some good strength on the traffic engineering side of things, and the people that are involved include the highest guy within the traffic division of WSP. And they're already, you know, diving into things in terms of looking at the two proposed routes that we want to look at first. And I expect that we'll be having another meeting probably next week, because the one this past week was had to be rescheduled.
Very good.
Just a quick question, I believe I asked it last meeting. Do we have the results of the the resident engagement survey that was put out to the town? I'm just curious, because I would like to have that perception survey before we really go much further with the active transportation discussion, until we see what the residents truly want.
Yeah, I mean, it is available. It's been shared with us.
Not with us yet. It was on a document that it was going to be shared with us. The council hasn't seen it yet.
I don't recall it.
Yeah, I think it was in his big thing that he sent us. So we'll find it.
Yeah.
I'll get it to you. Yeah.
It might have been.
That would be great. Thank you.
Might have been included in a larger package of things
It was in
that
the
could be
large-
easily
It was in
missed.
the large, there was 3 or 4 or 5 documents all together that was sent to everybody for the
okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
So I think you've already got it, but we'll find it, and it's buried in your inbox.
Yeah.
We'll find it and get it to you as a discrete doc.
Was it reviewed in a meeting? Like,
Well,
results?
yeah, he raised those in his presentation of what it was. So he talked about, you know, we had, and I'm making these numbers up because I don't remember them, but, you know, we had 72 people
Right.
respond, and this is
Yeah.
what they said. And so
Right.
he used that as part of his, presentation to you about the thing. So I'll find it and get it to you.
I don't recall that.
Anything else? Delegations on issues of discussion, I think we had that already, apparently, for a few hours. I don't think there's any need for an in-camera, Mr. Weirs, is there?
Not really, no.
No. I don't
Thank
think-
you for coming.
Hi, Claire.
I don't think there
Get some
is.
supper.
So, yeah, it's supper time apparently, so.
Sure is. Where's the pizza?
8:30.
Just joking.
Any further business then? Hearing no further business.
Yeah, I was just
Move
gonna
to
say-
go on
ahead.
I
camera.
was gonna, I did want, but this isn't the right day, I think now at that time. But I did want to have a discussion about development charges at some point.
Right.
And I don't know whether you want to do that today or not.
Council?
Council.
I would suggest perhaps that you put something together as a recommendation and send it out to council. I guess it would go to PAC.
I'm not sure, I
Would
don't
it?
know that we're at the place for
Okay, we just wanted a discussion on it.
I think
Yeah,
there's
I got you.
discussion before we
Right.
get to a recommendation.
Right, we're not at that stage, yeah. Just some input on the thinking on the development
Well,
charges
yeah,
that
I mean,
as they currently
The
exist.
short version is,
They don't exist.
you know, development charges, most municipalities in most places use development charges as the way to raise money to pave Fraser Drive, to put in a playground, to put in a park, et cetera, et cetera. Westville does not have development charges, nor do most of the towns, I think all of the towns in Pictou County. I don't believe anybody does. And I'm not arguing that we should today.
Right.
I would note that from a strictly base of land perspective, Westville is, in my opinion, one of the few places in Pictou County, other than the county itself, that has the capacity to actually grow.
Right.
And, you know, you don't want to be in the Fraser Drive situation going forward, right? That is a situation that should never have occurred. Council should never have assumed, I would argue, whenever they did that, more than 17 years ago,
Yeah.
they should never have agreed to assume that road
Never.
from the developer without it being paved. Like, that's just asking for trouble for
Right.
future councils, right? That's the reverse of paying it forward, right? It's,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scott, has anyone, and I'm sure they have, I mean, long before my time here, has anyone done that deep dive on Fraser's to really figure out if that's a thing? Because we reasonably believe that 8704 Lane was ours to maintain as well, based on some drawings and the comment here stamped by the planner from the old Pictou County. Like,
Right.
have we done the deep dive to actually see that it's ours somewhere along the way? Or are we just making, I'm not trying to
Assumptions.
make work for you, but
Yeah.
like, are
I
we just
have
basing it on
not dived
assumptions?
into that, but my understanding is that we assumed it.
Well,
But I could.
What if we
And I
haven't
guess
though?
we thought we
We could
assumed
do the work.
8704 as well for all of, as long as we had plowed 8704 as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, just a question, right? I'm not trying to deflect
I
it.
have not
I'm
done
not trying to
that.
deflect any responsibility, but, you know.
It
Yeah,
stones
and my
the
point
development.
isn't about responsibility. All I'm
Yeah.
saying
Is it
is,
stones?
you don't want to be in that position. And the reason I assumed that we said yes, I have no idea why we said yes, but we said yes
none
to
of us do.
something we probably shouldn't have done.
Exactly.
But one of the ways to avoid being in that spot is to, you know, development charges are designed to provide municipalities with a source of funding to provide the infrastructure and services that
To
a
grow.
growing community needs. And if you don't do that, then, you know, you're left doing all that infrastructure on the backs of, in Westville's case, 95% of our revenue comes from residential taxpayers. And so, you know, that's a challenge. And, you know, I just pulled up a couple of places. So if you were to build a single or semi-detached home in the city of Brampton, Ontario, $70,000 needs to be paid to the city before it will even talk to you, per unit. If you are building apartment dwellings, it's a little bit less. If you're building apartment units that are greater than 750 square feet, $40,000 a unit. times however many units in your thing. If you're under 740 square feet, $25,000 a unit times however many units. In the city of Cambridge, if you're wanting a single or semi-detached dwelling, the city will take $22,000 from you. The region of Waterloo will take $29,000 from you. The Waterloo District School Board will take an additional $2,000, and the Roman Catholic School Board will take $653 for a grand total of $54,000 in charges per unit.
Before the shovel goes
Before the shovel goes in the ground. That's to come in and talk to Mr. Day.
That's why houses are $750,000
Correct.
there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why
So,
we're here.
And so I'm not arguing that that's what we should be, but I'm
Yeah.
just there, and I don't, and I don't think Westville is at that place. But my argument would be, ladies and gentlemen, that I think we should start thinking about that because, as I said, there are relatively few places for urban development to occur in this county.
We have opportunity.
And you could find yourself one day being inundated with requests to build things, right? Now, we have to find water before then and all of that. But I'm just saying, we should start to do the basic homework that gets you to a place where you can say, okay, this is kind of what the costs we're facing, and we should be starting to.
But do you know if in Nova Scotia if there's similar?
I think HRM, I believe, has development charges.
I'm sure they do.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure
that
they do.
Many other places.
Yeah, outside of HRM, it's interesting.
Truro might.
Right, be interesting to know. It'd probably be a more. It would probably be a fairer comparison. Yeah, if we were going.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
I agree.
Thank you.
But it'd be a fairer comparison, probably.
Forward, and this would be when you don't need it.
Would be the time to do it. Yeah.
As opposed to when somebody comes in and says, "Oh, we'd like to put in 252 units on Fraser Drive, or whatever it is," right? And then maybe you're rushing around making decisions maybe before you're ready.
Right.
Yeah, no question. Very good point.
End of comment.
So further discussion is required, or information probably, to decide whether we should move forward with that. Anything else? Okay. Hearing no further business, I declare the meeting adjourned.